Yeah, so now it's been 6 years and I am living completely like symptom free.
That's so
And
wonderful.
I am able to eat all the foods that I love.
From hairstylist to health coach, how a 20-year struggle with health, 3 years with anorexia, and 17 years with debilitating Crohn's disease led this health coach to find a career with renewed purpose and satisfaction helping heal others. So, welcome, Melissa Brunello.
Hi, Dr. Shauna.
I am so excited to have you share your story. You have a really great one. I love also that you share a lot about how you're Italian. And, Italians love food, and food is going to be an issue, both as someone who suffers from anorexia. We're going to have some issues there. And then also Crohn's disease and not being able to eat some of those foods. But you're here to say you're symptom free and able to eat all of that food again. So tell us a little bit about, we want to dive into that story, but I want people who are listening to like, wait, how? How can I eat the food that I love? This girl loves food, so don't let the anorexia scare you. This girl actually really loves food, but she's had a complicated early relationship with food. So let's hear from you, Melissa, and just tell us like, a little bit about your background. What were you doing? What was life like before you were a health coach? And let's start the journey. How did you get there? And just tell us a little bit more about you.
So have, I was a hairstylist for 32 years and um, absolutely, always loved doing hair, loved working with people. Um, and, I'm also a mom of three teenagers to be exact. And I'm a wife. And yeah, I was, just, I was working, trying to keep up with life in general, working like over 40 hours a week as a hairstylist and just was not feeling good, having some major, bloating, pain. It was really debilitating, missing work at times.
Mhm.
And yeah, then getting the diagnosis of having Crohn's disease.
And tell us a little bit about, I remember you sharing once about, and initially, like other people in your family also had like, well, tell us a little bit about like they also had some symptoms. So you kind of pass it off as normal. And I know a lot of people kind of get acclimatized to like they always have brain fog, they always have knee pain, they always have bloating after meals. Isn't that normal? And so tell us a little bit about that. And maybe people who are listening going, wait, you mean that doesn't happen for everybody? And so just share a little bit about how we can just kind of unfortunately normalize some symptoms. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's funny because, again, being Italian, my mom, my sisters, always suffered from, well, they put a name to it. They called it a stomach attack and, always having like digestive issues. So, again, when I was diagnosed, I was clearly having symptoms way before that,
Mhm.
but I just thought, oh, I'm just like my siblings and I'm like my mom and I get stomach attacks, not knowing that it was Crohn's disease.
I want to reach out to those that are listening. Is this a normal thing? Like, d- how pop in the comments if you guys amongst your family are like, oh yeah, we get stomach attacks. So we didn't have that in my particular family. However, my mom always had bloating. And she just said, oh, it's this darn stomach. She was never overweight. In fact, she was very slim, but she had this belly, and her mom had this belly. And it's just like, oh, yeah, we just have bloating, like, and it just became this normal thing. And it came interesting to me how people would, maybe they'd always have a headache, and that just became their thing. So comment below if especially if you have digestive issues that you just kind of thought everybody did, because I'm just here to say not everybody has it, and you don't have that anymore. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about getting the diagnosis. I know that what came as a complete shock to you. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, complete shock where actually, so when I scheduled, so again, I knew something was majorly wrong because I was having all this pain. I just had my second child. So it was about within the year of, his first year, I was having horrible belly pain, like doubled over in pain. And then I would go to the bathroom and they were extremely like bloody stools where I literally, I mean, there was like blood. And that's when I was like, oh my goodness, like
No, no,
something
no,
is
no.
not right.
Hmm.
So I, you know, got in touch with the gastroenterologist, scheduled a colonoscopy. And again, like not even thinking, I mean, Crohn's disease, colitis, whatever you want to call it, never in a million years did I think I was going to get a diagnosis of any of that. I had my father-in-law come with me to my colonoscopy. So he was like my driver. So anybody that knows, when you have a colonoscopy, you have to have a driver. And I mean, he was in the room with me when my doctor came in and said, "Oh, you have Crohn's disease." And you're kind of like half out of it, when you're because you have like
Yes.
all those meds in you.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like what? Like Crohn's disease? Like what is that? And
Yeah.
like what are you even saying? And again, I have my father-in-law with me, which, bless his heart for offering to take me. But again, this is how clueless I was. Like I was completely like sidetracked and yeah, like totally shocked,
Yeah.
like how did this happen? Like, and the first thing you think, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like what did I do to deserve like getting Crohn's disease and um, just being labeled with having a disease.
And I think that's really important. And I think that, we'll tap into your journey as a health coach, but I think that's one of the real great roles a health coach can play is that understanding. Because the first thing that people do is they feel guilty, like, what did I do wrong? And I was bad. And how did I not, um, you know, what did I do wrong? Or how come my body is broken and failing? And that's where we'll talk more about that. It's not broken. It's just working the best of its ability under the circumstances, and it's like a cry for help. It's like, hey, something needs to get changed here, at the core. So so okay, so you've got Crohn's, and then what happens? That what do they do for treatment? What do you do? Because you went a little unconventional. Like, you started off and then you had to take matters into your own hands. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. And I'm just gonna just say this right now. I definitely don't recommend doing what I did. I know now why I did what I did, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But so my doctor wanted to put me on meds. And he wanted to put me, they want to put you on prednisone, right? Because that helps with inflammation. And that was like the first thing. Well, I hear prednisone. And again, I had an eating disorder in my early 20s. So I'm thinking, I'm not going on prednisone. Like, I'm just not doing it. So we kind of compromised and he put me on, a medication. But I instantly started feeling the side effects. So I took myself off. And again, I do not recommend doing that. But I really, I took myself off the meds and I was really determined to find out and figure out like how I can heal this. So I actually healed from anorexia. So I knew like all humans have the ability to heal. So I knew I could heal this, but I just wasn't sure how.
Yeah. And y- that's another story potentially for another time in your how you overcame anorexia, but and you did. But still, you don't want to necessarily you were of the mindset, I don't want to do medications if I don't have to. And you did at some point do a couple of medications early
I,
on, got the side effects, said, no, I'm not doing this. Um, Now, I will preface this that you're now symptom free for years, but prior to the years of symptom free, you had what, 16 years of trial
uh,
and error?
16 years.
Yeah. So you're not recommending the 16 years of trial and error so that you can now enjoy. I mean, the best thing is to avoid that trial and error at all costs. Because I mean, and then you got a little bit lucky in tapping into and finding the solution. But much like when I'm helping health coaches create their successful careers, it took me years, and it was very painful and very costly as well. That trial and error journey. But now on the other side of it, you're like, ugh, it didn't need to take that long. It didn't need to cost me that much. And then you can help others, which is kind of which you are able to do now. You're able to help people get on the other side of that. Let's um let's go into I know I want to explore a little bit more about what that journey to become a health coach was like. So this is the impetus. You're in the health world as the recipient, whether you like it or not, and you're kind of thrust into trying to figure this out. And you're determined to do this because you don't want the side effects of the meds, and you already know because you proved it to yourself that the body can heal itself because you were able to do that, tapping into body, mind, spirit with the anorexia, and you were able to do that. That was in your 20s. This is now, many years later. You've been good with that, started a family, all that good stuff. So tell us a little bit about uh the some of the let's just tap into a few of the things that you tried. The diets or some of those things, what worked, what didn't work, and some of that journey.
So so again, I was very focused on like the
Mhm.
food that I was putting into my body. So, I was researching constantly and always coming across like, oh, for, Crohn's disease or IBD, going vegan or plant-based, um, like raw foods. Like I literally tried every diet, like
Mhm.
every single diet. I also, was exercising. So I thought I was healthy.
Mhm.
And I thought, I was going to be able to overcome this just by, like changing my diet. And, I was able to manage my symptoms, but I was still having occasional flares. And then I
Mhm.
would go into these flares and then, I'd be able to heal through the flare, but it's like I was never able to get over the hump and get to like real healing.
Mhm.
I was only like managing my symptoms like with diet and with exercise. And I went to chiropractors, I did acupuncture. I mean, I was trying all the things.
Yeah. It's and I think anyone with Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, or any chronic disease can totally relate. You're trying anything to find relief, and you did that. And there was a pivotal moment for you, and it was something that your youngest son said to you that changed everything and had you get serious about finding an answer sooner rather than later. And share with us what that was about.
So my husband and I were actually having a conversation in the kitchen, and my youngest son, overheard what we were talking about. And, I was talking to my husband about my disease, like Crohn's disease.
Mhm.
And my son, looked at me and he was like, Mommy, you have a disease? Like, are you going to die? And I like took a step back and I was like, oh my goodness, like I need to figure this out. And my doctor, I had just recently at that time had a colonoscopy. And again, this was 16 years of trial and error. So you can imagine what my intestines looked like. And he said to me, he's like, you really need to go on meds. He's like, I'm really worried for you that next time I hear from you or see you is going to be in the emergency room and I'm going to have to cut out part of your intestines.
Mm.
And I was like, okay. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. Like that was definitely the turning point. It was the fear of having to have surgery. And, my youngest son, like looking at me like, oh my gosh, my mom has a disease and she's going to die.
Yeah. And you not being able to promise that you weren't, but going to do everything in your power, uh, to alter that trajectory in your favor. And I think then there was another key turning point. So that sets the intention. So obviously anyone who's not feeling well wants to feel well, but that sharpens your focus and you've got a keen focus. And then when the student is ready, the teacher appears and on multiple levels. So the first hurdle is to heal yourself. And you did a holistic nutrition certification and you
Yeah.
had an aha moment. Tell us, because you've been trying all these diets, you've been trying all these things. Tell us, what was the light bulb moment that you had that was like, missing link here?
So again, I have all these years of trial and error. So I decided that I'm going to learn about nutrition. So I sign up for this holistic nutrition and wellness certification. And there was a point, and there was a part of the course that talked about fight or flight
Mhm.
and the stress response that we have in our bodies. And that is when the light bulb went off in my brain. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is what I've been missing. Like I had no idea. Again, I thought, oh, it's got to be the diets, and oh, it's going to be this diet. This diet is going to, going to heal me. And but then it was when I made that connection that for years and years, my body was in constant stress. Like, and again, when you're in fight or flight, your cortisol levels, are higher, and it does a lot of not good things. It's like it causes inflammation. There's two things that cause inflammation. One, it could be the food that you're putting in, but the other part is stress. And they definitely go hand in hand.
And you were working full time, like 40 hours as a hairstylist on your feet, raising a
Mhm.
family, busy mom, 3 kids. Um, we get it. That makes sense why you would be like that. And then to also for decades have a health challenge to boot on top of that, that pushes it over the edge. And then to recognize that. So that starts you uh, on your path of looking at it from a holistic approach. Yes, diet, but not only diet, and really looking at what foods help you heal, which ones make you sick, and looking at that. Um, and then tell us a little bit about the success now, like the level of your symptoms and what you're able to do now.
Yeah, so I also want to add really quick too. I also, in those 16 years, it brought up, I was in and out of depression, anxiety, having panic attacks as well.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, so now it's been 6 years and I am living completely like symptom free.
That's so
And
wonderful.
I am able to eat all the foods that I love, which, like, being Italian is huge. And I think that was one thing that was really sad for me. So, like, my family owns a pizza shop, and I worked at it, like growing up, that's where I worked. And, there's lots of like personal, emotional attachments that we
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
And, again, being Italian, I love my food, I love my bakery. And not being able to eat the foods that I loved was it was sad, and it was
Yes.
I hated it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really hated it. So, yeah, so I again 6 years of, not having any symptoms and being able to eat the foods I love again.
That is so amazing and wonderful, and for people listening to be able to hear that. I mean, when you heal your gut, you heal your gut and everything changes. Now, in the middle of some of those things, you couldn't necessarily eat anything that you wanted, I'm sure. But to be able to heal your gut so that you can't, that's motivation enough if you're a foodie, to be able to eat the foods that you love. Otherwise, people are like, well, why would I want to? I mean, one, to get rid of the pain of the flares, but if it was just because a lot of people think, oh, this means that I just got to eat, people will say rabbit food for the rest of my life. That's no life. I don't want it. Um, but that's not what you're talking about at all. You're saying to be able to heal your gut, be able to eat the foods that you love, and eat the foods that an Italian or a family that has a pizzeria that they love. Okay, that's a whole other level of opportunity that people didn't know that they could have. So I really love that you're sharing that. It's giving people maybe people don't ever want to go back to some of those foods,
Yeah.
but but to know that it's possible, I always love when we bust myths and bust limiting beliefs. So it's there's more than one right answer, and what you want to find is what's true for you, what works for you, and what works for you 10 years ago might not be the same as right now, and everybody's a little bit different. But I love that inspiration and that hope that you give to people. And this whole messy, wonderfully awful journey has led you to your mission and a renewed purpose, and to become a health coach. So to go from hairstylist to health coach. And I love that. So it's not like you just woke up, I think I'm going to be a health coach now. There's a lot of stuff that went into a lot of training, a lot of personal experience, and, real boots on the ground training on on what you do and your area of expertise. So who is it that you're passionate about helping? Who are you on a mission for now?
So I help moms with IBD. I teach them how to avoid painful flares, ditch their pain and bloating so they too can enjoy the foods that they love.
I love it. So it's come full circle. And now all of those things have renewed purpose. And it's so interesting as health coaches, it's so very common that um, who you attract as a client, um, it speaks to, I always say that's the tip of the iceberg, and then underneath that niche, if you will, that area of expertise is all of this other story that we kind of, nosed around in here with the anorexia and the Crohn's. And I believe one of your clients has, does she have Crohn's as well or no?
Yeah, no, just pain and bloating.
So pain and bloating, but then also an eating disorder. And like, it's not like you have a sign up, hey, I'll help you with your eating disorder. But it's like, it's again, when the teacher, I always, they always say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But I always tell our health coaches, when the health coach is ready, the client the student appears as well. So now that you are ready to now guide others, be the beacon to guide others, now these people are showing up for you so that you can help. And you're not even, it's like it's a whole other level of attraction. You're not even saying the words eating disorder. And you're like, yeah, I got that. I can help you with that. Or Crohn's or IBD or anxiety or panic attacks or any of these things. They're in your wheelhouse. And, so I love that. What's one of the what's one of the things that you love best about being a health coach? What do you like about that?
So I mean, that one of the things that I always loved about being a hairstylist was just I love helping people. Like, and to give somebody like a good, a good haircut and they leave and they feel good. But like that's when I kind of knew I was meant to do more because
Mhm,
it's like I really want to help people like from the inside. And, because having a good haircut or a beautiful color, it's only like temporary.
mhm.
But when you really help people like on such a deeper level and you really help them like from the inside, I mean, it's just it's so amazing. And again, I love helping people like just feel good.
It's soul satisfying is what I like to say. And if you're here listening in and you're a health coach or you're wanting to be a health coach and you are wanting help on how do I go from wherever I am, a hairstylist or whatever occupation I have, and maybe I've gone through some things and I want to create a soul satisfying health coaching practice. I want to help people with something that I've gone through. I want to make life easier for them. In the description, you'll see a link to how to become a successful health coach. So take a look at that. Uh, one thing that I always like to also ask is we learn, we teach our clients a lot, but we also learn from our clients.
Mhm.
And so for yourself, as someone who is a Crohn's coach, a weight loss, panic attack, anxiety coach, but mainly a Crohn's coach. What is something that you've learned from working with your clients?
So everybody has the ability to heal. Like that is our normal like human state. Like our bodies are not meant to be ill and diseased. So the first thing again, we all have the ability to heal. You just have to be open to wanting to learn, new things, choosing to look at things a little bit differently,
Hmm.
um, and just trusting in that. And, also the power of, like, for me, like, letting go was a huge uh, transformation is definitely when I learned how to let go. So and it's really mind, body, and spirit. So it's really all of that together is really what makes the magic happen and can bring you to healing.
Yeah, I love that. And you had mentioned, letting go. You had mentioned once, like being Italian. You're like, we hold on to everything. We hold on to grudges. We hold on to,
Yeah, yeah.
and so.
That was a huge lesson for me because I was like, I was reading this book and it was like, I don't know, the magic of like letting go. And I'm like, man, if you can teach me, who is 100% Italian, I will say I'm half Sicilian as well. So that puts a whole nother layer on top of the Italian part. But like we weren't taught how to let go. Italians are strong and we hold on to things and you do something bad to my sister, I'm not going to talk to you. Like the whole thing. So yeah, I was like, wow, if I can learn how to let go, like Anybody can learn how to let go.
Do you have an example of something that you had to learn to let go of?
I feel like it's a for me, it's constant,
Yeah.
learning how to let go. But I think a lot of it was um, my childhood.
Yeah.
I felt like I got like the raw end of the stick,
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
the raw end of the deal. And I felt, my parents were divorced. They divorced when I was really young. So I think I always felt like sorry for myself.
Yeah.
I always blamed my parents, because this is why I'm the way that I am
Mhm.
because of what I experienced.
Mhm.
But learning how to let go actually taught me to take responsibility for, for myself and not to blame like everybody else. Like we all have the ability to grow, to change. And like a lot of times too, I think people think, because again, I have conversations with people all the time, and the forgiveness is hard for people because people think, well, forgiving means you have to forget.
Mhm.
And
Or
it's
condone, or
or
condone.
condone. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to forget, but it's letting go of all of those feelings that you have like attached to that.
Yeah, and that's huge, and I think that's a key part of the actual healing, like how you are able to heal naturally. It's getting right down to the root of some of these issues. They say the issues are in the tissues. And so when we hold on to these things, there's a book, The Body Keeps Score, or it's a message, and like there's a lot of truth to that. And so that's why it's not just a diet. It's not just about the food. You can't ignore this other aspect of it. But when you're able to forgive, the forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It's not for the other person, it's for yourself. It's for yourself. You're the biggest beneficiary of that act. So I love that. So I really like going deeper on what you meant about learning to let go, just to give that really great example of that. And I another thing that I've heard you say is about an illness like inflammatory bowel disease is really just a message.
Yeah,
It's just your body's just trying to tell you something.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's how I look at it. It's like any ailment that you have, it's almost like it's like tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, like something's going on here and it's not working. So let's dive deeper and take a look at this and, see what's like really causing
Yeah.
the actual ailment like IBD."
Yeah. Excellent. If you are listening and you have a question for Melissa, be sure to just tap it in the comments there, and we'll pass that along to her. If you have Crohn's or a gut health issue and you have a question for her, pop it in the comments. So now you help people with Crohn's. What's the biggest myth that you've seen when it comes to people looking to heal their gut and get into remission from Crohn's, for example? What's a myth that you see?
So, I feel like you hear a lot, oh, well, if you eat the right foods and, if you exercise, like that's good enough. And you should be good. I mean, you hear all the time, some people, they're so healthy, they eat so well and they exercise, but they still ended up with this disease. So it's really not it's not about the diets. It's not all about exercise. I mean, it's important. Diet is important at times, and so is exercise, but there's so much more to it.
Mhm.
Um, it's our thoughts, it's what we think about, and
Yeah.
it's um, you know, reprogramming all of that old stuff that has been programmed into our subconscious.
Yeah.
And um Yeah, again, it's mind, body, and spirit. It's like all of it together. Again, like getting to the root cause of, where it's all coming from, and learning how to, let go. And it's very freeing.
Yeah, I love it. That's fantastic. One of the things that I love about the career of health coaching, and it's a really new career. Like most people still don't even know what a health coach is or does. But one of the things that I love is the incredible growth and personal development that occurs along that journey. And as you're helping others and helping them in their growth, to become a healthier, happier human, you're helping yourself as well. So by acting, leading with love, I call it leading with love, acting out of service. As you help others, you're helping yourself. That's where my phrase "be good for you" comes from. What is in how have you grown as a person through becoming a health coach? What has improved for you?
So I know how to set boundaries now, which was a big learning curve for me because I said yes to everybody. I never wanted to hurt anybody, and I would always feel guilty if I said no. So I've learned how to say no a lot, a lot. Even my husband is getting used to me saying no more. And my confidence has grown. And speaking of growing, this is actually pretty funny. So my last two, okay, so I've been 4'9", um, most of my life. And the last two doctor's appointments, when they took my height, I am now like 4'10". How does that even happen? I mean, so all I'm thinking of is obviously when you're more confident and you're happier, right? Like you stand taller. Like that's really a thing. It gave
You
me an inch.
You are literally the first person ever to have literally grown, like literally grown an inch. I've not heard of that ever. That's fun.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
I can't make it up. I mean, it's true.
Well, and better vertically than horizontally.
Exactly.
Anyways, I love that. That's really great. That's a first. That's a first. Mind you, it's a first, but most people don't measure themselves in their height. So maybe we're all standing a little taller. I mean, it probably goes along with the confidence. I think an
For
increase in
sure.
confidence and lightening up and letting go of some issues. If you're feeling like withdrawn and timid, you do tend to cower. And when you're standing up for yourself and have boundaries and leading and shining your light, um, when I think about it now, it's not so surprising that you would have grown literally an inch. Uh, yeah, that's fascinating. And also, I also want to make the connection because I think it's not just coincidental that as you learn to say no, and as you learn to put those boundaries up, and as you learned to discern and address the stress and have more confidence, that also your gut healed. So, like it works together, like each one helps each other. Who knows which one came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't think it really matters. As pop in there either healing the gut or improving your personal boundaries and growth and that. But the health coaching also has improved. I know your gut was healed before you became a health coach and helped people heal their gut, but there is no finish line. We're always going and going. If you had to go back and talk to little Melissa, what advice would you share with her?
Well, I would let her know that she was going to get diagnosed with Crohn's disease, but it was going to be a blessing because through that diagnosis, she learned how to heal herself, and now she is able to help others, um, you know, avoid their flares and, get rid of their pain and bloating as well.
I don't know. I would just probably say, "Hang on." It's
Yeah,
gonna
well,
get bumpy, but it's
it
gonna be good in the end. And to know
yeah.
that it gets good in the end, there's a saying, um, everything works out in the end, and if it's not working out, it's not the end. So just, keep going. You're just in that journey to get there. You're in the before part of the story. You're or in the middle part of the messy middle part of the story before you get to the gorgeous end. So I love that. One of my favorite questions to ask, because I know the body's all connected. I know that, everything's linked to everything, and the better it gets, the better it gets, and the worse it gets, the worse it gets. Like the more that you're stressed, and it's not a surprise that when you're burnt out and you're stressed and you're working all those hours and etc., that's when that Crohn's flares up and just goes right out of control. um but then now when you're working with your clients and now working as a health coach, as you help them get to the root cause, address the inflammation, help them with their stress, help them find the foods that will help heal their gut, the sleep, the water, whatever it is that you're helping them with, and just learning to maybe put up some personal boundaries for themselves. When you start on that road, they might come in for one thing, like weight loss or something, but the gifts they're going to get are way more. And I loved that when I was a health coach. I just loved that. Uh, so, what are one or two stories that you can share of clients that you worked with that have some fun spin-off benefits? What things have you noticed?
Yeah, so I had a woman come to me. She was suffering with um, joint pain, and she also had, pain and bloating.
Mhm.
And she was, just feeling some sadness because of not feeling good. And I was able to, you know, I helped her, get rid of her pain and bloating. So she
Mhm.
was feeling better. Her joint pain went away, and she was just so much happier, just because she was feeling so much better. And, again, even her relationship with her food became better, and she lost 15 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. So it's like that. Oh yeah, and as a side bonus, she lost 15 pounds. I mean, without even trying. And no doubt she was struggling with it, but those other things, the painful bloating and the joint pain, are bigger things for her than the weight. So she's not even going to mention that. But you can't help when you start to address this holistically. You can't help but get these other spin-off benefits. I love that. Any others that you want to share?
Yeah. So I had another woman who came to me for, IBD symptoms. And, again, like chronic bloating. She also suffered from depression, anxiety, having panic attacks.
Mhm.
And with, helping her, um, get rid of her pain and bloating, it also helped with her depression, no more panic attacks,
Yeah.
and did not suffer from anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, and it's huge. That's life changing. If you have a panic attack, it stops you in your tracks, right? If you have anxiety and depression, I know we're throwing those words around, but if you know someone who, or if you have lived with that and suffered with that, um, life isn't living like so to be able to, oh, and by the way, yes, we helped with your inflammatory bowel disease, but also all of these other things. So to be able to enjoy food again, to be able to lose weight, to be able to get rid of panic attacks, these are huge, and these are just the side effects of working with a health coach. And I think, and it's so interesting, I'm constantly fascinated how people attract clients that are meant for them. And I love sharing your stories because the person who's meant for you maybe listening right now. And I remember we had one client who helped people with knee pain. And we never ever talked about tennis, but 4 out of her first five, but she was a tennis player. But the reason that, she was having problems is she couldn't play tennis because of the knee pain. She got rid of the knee pain. She could play tennis again. But we never talked about the tennis. We just talked about helping people get rid of knee pain. And 4 out of her first five clients were tennis players. And so I love that, without even talking about, like we were saying before, eating disorder, um, those people, you're able to help those people. And when you shine your light, it goes everywhere. It's a light that goes everywhere. And so that the people that are meant to find you will find you. And it's one of the most rewarding things about a health coaching practice, and very, as I call it, soul satisfying. If people are listening in and they want to connect with you, or if they have questions for you, what's the easiest, best way to get in touch with you?
So my website is gutchick.com, and that's GUTCHICK.com. And also I'm on Instagram, and that is gut underscore chick.
Love it. I love that, because people talk about doing a gut check, but I like it gut chick. I like that cute, clever play on words. So gut chick, GUTCHICK.com. Check her out. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you are looking for help with your gut health, Melissa's absolutely fabulous. Check her out, connect with her, ask her questions. If you're someone who's looking to get a health coaching practice up and running, check again the descriptions below, or check out this video that we have that shows you the 5 critical pieces that you require if you're going to have a successful health coaching practice. And so with that, I absolutely thank you, Melissa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Shaunna.
And thank you all for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this, so that we can bring more of this to you. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Be good for you.